They walk in and they've got a certain poker hand. It may be a good hand, it may be a bad hand. Look at the whole factual matrix and work out how to get them into a better place than what they are when they come in.
Welcome back to another episode of my podcast, Relentless Life on Your Terms. I have with me Lindsay Kotzman. How are you, Lindsay?
Very good, thank you.
We have a very interesting story. You're part of a firm now. You've been a lawyer. You graduated in 1984.
Yep.
It's quite a while ago.
It was a while ago.
You've been in law now ever since.
Yeah.
Tell us a bit about that journey from school to where you are now, and a bit about your firm and a bit about what you're doing.
Well, I did my articles in 1984 and then progressed through about 2 or 3 jobs. I had a crack, actually. I always treated law as a stepping stone to getting into business. But I had a crack at one particular business. We bought a factory, a tofu factory of all things, food manufacturing. And it was a challenge. It was interesting. I always thought that if you start with 5 cents worth of beans and you end up with $1.50 worth of tofu, then there'd be enough margin in there and you'd be able to make a great business. But it was tough. It was tough.
Because I read that your commerce is very labor intensive.
It was very, very labor intensive.
So it's expensive. So the cost of the product was cheap.
Yes.
The profit margin was very high.
That's
but
exactly
by the time
right.
it was delivered to the consumer,
Yep.
that obviously was eroded.
Exactly. That's exactly what happened. And there are a lot of issues associated with it. So I decided to get back to law. It was my knitting, stick to my knitting. I knew what I was doing with law. I'd had plenty of experience already in law. And so went back to law, worked for another few years in a law firm, and then decided that I was going to start my own practice.
Which is currently P&B, property and business.
Property and business, correct.
But when did you launch that?
I started that in about 94, I think it was, 1994.
So that's 30 years.
Yep.
You've started in a business, which is a remarkable feat in itself. Not many people get past 5 or 10 years. You've been in business for 30. What are your secrets? How do you last that long in a business?
I've always cut. I remember my grandma used to say, you cut your cloth to measure. So, we've always expanded. We've expanded nicely over the years, always been cash flow positive, always had good financial discipline. And the main thing has always been servicing the clients, just making sure that the clients are happy and they want to come back. I've had clients that have been with me since the very beginning, and that's really encouraging. And it's a
testament to yourself and your business.
Thank you. Yeah. It's the caring. We distinguish ourselves because we care about the clients. We care about making sure that we get them the best result possible. I always compare it to a poker hand. You never quite know what the client's got to walk in with their particular problem on any particular day. So they walk in and they've got a certain poker hand. And it may be a good hand, it may be a bad hand. And we have to look at the whole matrix, the factual matrix of their hand, consider the soft points, the good points, the strengths, the weaknesses of their position, and work out how to get them into a better place than what they are when they come in.
So how to have a winning hand, so to speak.
Exactly.
Do you play poker?
Occasionally.
I love poker. That's what I was asking. It's a very great analogy. You don't know what they're coming in with, but you need to analyze, how are we going to win this hand? What are we up against?
Correct.
And that's by analyzing their strengths and weaknesses.
Exactly right.
So in particular, you practice property and all business matters, correct?
Mm-hmm. Correct. We also do wills and estates for high net worth people, and we do litigation and court fights as well.
And now I know you mentioned before always cash flow positive, and you said to me off, because obviously we're fellow club members as well, we did our call together and I asked you a lot of business questions. You tell me obviously always growing. Do you take a conservative view on your growth? How do you look at it? Because obviously now you're looking at a new office, I know, because we talk offside, and you want to make sure you make the right decision. You're in a very good office now. You're very, very comfortable there.
Yep.
But you're looking at 1 year ahead. You're going to outgrow that office.
Yep.
Tell me a bit about that.
Look, we're very fortunate at the moment. It's a buyer's market when we're talking about wanting to be a tenant going into a premises along St Kilda Road at the moment. St Kilda Road is fairly depressed. So we're not short of offers, but finding the exact property for us is kind of difficult. Being in a law office, we need lots of private offices so that people can talk on the phone and do their business effectively. And a lot of the offices these days are open plan. So there's a whole range of different issues that we have to take into account, including fit out, lease costs, what sort of concessions the landlords are prepared to make as well. So it's a whole dynamic that we've got to look at.
Being in the professional services I'm in as well, it's not as common these days for people to walk into offices like ours and they've got offices where they need to meet clients. It's more open plan working, which is bringing rise to places like Creative Cubes, WeWorks, and all these general places like that. So you're currently got 20, 30 people at your
We've
firm?
got about 20, yeah.
And obviously you're growing that into...
Yeah.
So tell me some of the key challenges you've solved in some of your recent cases with your clients.
Oh, wow. There's so many different ones. The good thing about being the founder is that I get to pick and choose the cases that I'm working on.
I think you've earned that.
So, recently, most recent ones that I've been involved in settling was I had a client that was of I've got to be careful, but European background.
Yeah.
He brought in a partner to a business and a piece of land that he was going to buy. My client intended to be sort of an absentee partner, and hand management across to the partner. But the
like
partner,
a silent investor?
Exactly.
Yep.
The partner ultimately locked out my client. My client came to me after he'd been locked out, and I had no knowledge of what had happened previously.
Wow.
The government bought the piece of land for one of the under compulsory acquisition.
Yep.
A large amount of money was floated.
Transferred well.
And my client at the time looked like he was going to miss out completely. When he walked in the door, it looked like he was going to miss out completely. We ended up getting him a very, very positive settlement. Another one recently that we had was this is also an interesting one. A stepfather was nominated as the executor and trustee of a will by two girls' parents or mother. The mother passed away suddenly, and there was a fight between the stepdaughters and the stepfather, and we had to negotiate a resolution for them as well.
You talk a bit about wills, and we've spoke a bit about that in core as well through Cub. Why is it important to have a will?
A will saves so many problems. If you spell out, wills are very interesting areas. And the reason why they're interesting is that people don't like to address the issues. The number I've been to hospital beds twice this year alone to sign up wills for people that were on their last days. And it's sad to see, but it's much more healthy and disciplined to think about the end of your life, because as things stand with today's technology, everybody is ultimately going to have to face that day, and to plan properly what you want to happen to your assets after you pass away. So it's a matter of being realistic and just not putting it off and saying, I'm going to set a date by which I'm going to do it, or ring a lawyer to organise to do it. And the lawyer will then guide you through the process of how to think about both your own assets and any corporate or trust structures that you might have that need to be managed.
And like people, as you said, it could be uncomfortable, but you've got to also consider the person that's passing away and their wishes, how they want to distribute their wealth, how those conversations might be uncomfortable with stepkids or people. And you tend to see ugly sides of people when it comes to money and wealth.
Yes.
So it's very, very important to document and be clear with your intentions on transferring that money or how it should be distributed.
Exactly.
So what are some of the key things you should look for when you're writing out your will?
First of all, the executor has to be somebody that you trust. The executor actually ends up swearing to the court that they will abide by the words that are written into the will, but it still has to be somebody that can be trusted. So you pick either a spouse or usually a sibling to be the executor. You can sometimes appoint a professional trustee depending on the size of the estate and whether it's worthwhile to do that. Then you need to very carefully think about what assets do I own in my own name and what assets do I have in a company or in a trust. And with a company and a trust, they're not actually part of your estate, but you can direct how those assets are to be looked after or are to be managed. Because a company and a trust will last beyond the life of the person, and so therefore it isn't actually devised in the will. It isn't passed across in the will. But you can organise for the directorships to be changed or direct that the who that should be the directors of the new company or the most importantly, the person who is the appointer of a trust. The appointer of the trust is the person that ultimately decides who will manage the trust. And once you've worked out who manages the trust, then that is the person that will actually make the distributions. And if you have a family discretionary trust, that can lead to all sorts of, that can ensure or work very, very strongly towards making sure that even though they're not assets that you own in your own name, that the income and the benefits flow appropriately.
So it's very, very important to get advice around this area because you got to understand what an appointer is, what a trustee is, why the beneficiaries are a very, very important part.
Yep.
And through going to a law firm like yourself, understanding those things are very important.
Absolutely. Yep.
And it's
often people will go and decide that they want to buy a property, and they ring their accountant and say, what structure do I need? Do I need a structure or don't I need a structure? And the accountant will say, no, let's set up a company and a trust. And the people have no education really about what it is that they're engaging in.
Or why they're doing it. Or what sort of trust is it?
Correct. That's exactly right. So unless they're schooled on that issue, they come into our office and they really say, well, I have a trust and what they tell me doesn't actually make sense. It may make sense in accountant speak, but it doesn't actually
mean in layman's terms for me to understand.
Exactly.
So obviously there's discretionary and unitary trust. Tell us the key differences.
When a discretionary and a unit trust. Yep. A unit trust is what's called a fixed trust. A unit trust is probably something which is more akin to a company because a unit trust will issue units and the units are referred to as the proportion of ownership.
Which is like shares, so to speak.
Effectively shares in a company.
So you could have 40%, 40 units, and so on and so on.
Correct, 40 out of 100. Yep. So it depends on how many units are actually issued. With a discretionary trust, what actually happens is that on the 30th of June of each year, a person that is controlling a discretionary trust is meant to make a resolution saying, this is the income that's been received for the year, and I can distribute the income to any one of a class of beneficiaries. Now, that class can be consist of anyone within the family of the main beneficiaries that are actually listed in the trust.
There's also a different class of shares, A, B, C, or whatever that may be as well.
Not in a discretionary trust. No, not usually. A discretionary trust simply is an ownership structure where you can pick who is to get the income for that particular year.
That's for a unit trust, isn't there? There's different.
That's for a unit trust.
Unit trust, different classes of shares.
Different classes of units, yeah.
But it's very, very important to get that advice around that because you don't know what you don't know.
Exactly.
Now, going back to what we said before about you running that business for 30 years, tell us a bit about the first 10 years. Tell us how you managed to navigate being in business for so long. How was the first 10 years? What were some of the key lessons that you learned along the way?
Wowie. Okay. The thing that really gave me a springboard into the practice was I was fortunate enough early in my career to have been introduced to a real estate agent out of Singapore. And that real estate agent in Singapore needed a Victorian lawyer to go across to Singapore and to assist purchasers when they were purchasing apartments in Victoria. So they would go across to the local Singaporeans would respond to an advertisement in the daily paper on a Saturday and come and look at an exhibition. And I'd be there. I'd attend the exhibition and I'd be introduced to the buyers. So from a very, very early stage, I had to learn to be able to sell my services effectively. I had to get the confidence of the buyers very quickly and assure them that I was independent of the developer, that I was traveling there on my own steam, and I was a young lawyer looking for clients. And for the most part, I picked up most of the buyers in any particular exhibition that happened.
It's a very good way to be indoctrinated into what you do, because it's not just people coming to you. You've actually got to sell. This is
Correct.
my benefits to you.
Yep.
This is how I can do this. It's a very, very good way. That would have, I believe, played a big role in the growth of your business.
Yes. Well, what actually happened was that irrespective of that, I always made sure that I was acting very independently on behalf of the purchasers, but you became friendly with the developers who were there to see how the exhibition was going, and you created those relationships. You'd end up going out for dinner with them and sharing a drink and a meal and everything like that. And when I'd come back and the project was over, I got approached by a number of those developers that I'd actually met.
Use this guy, he's very good, he'll help you.
Correct. But what actually happened was that they said, you can either work for the buyers or you can work for me. And so I said, it might be a lot easier to work for you and save myself too many trips across to Singapore. Over those 3 years, I did about 30 trips to Singapore, and it was great. I learned a lot. 30 trips over the 3 years.
So it's 10 trips a year. So it's almost every month you're on a plane, pretty much.
About one a month. Yeah. It was busy. It was fun. It was.
How long are you going for?
3 to 4 days per trip.
And it's obviously just full on work, client after client after client after client. Yep.
On the busy days. I mean, sometimes the project just didn't sell, or it didn't have the panache that attracted buyers. So it was always on spec. I never took any money from the developers, and sometimes I got a lot of work. Sometimes it was a little more scarce. But you just the good times were good enough to take a business decision to say, well, it averages out over time, and and it was worthwhile.
So as the practice started growing, started putting on more lawyers, do you have partners now in the firm?
Only recently. I don't mix with a lot of lawyers. I don't mix socially with a lot of lawyers. I can probably count on one hand the number of lawyers that I consider to be, friends as such. And so lawyers probably know too much for their own good, and it's hard to form relationships. But really, I've been absolutely fortunate in that in the last 5 or 6 years, I've taken on 3 partners. I started with one, and he has recently taken on the role of managing partner, and so that's allowed me to sit back and do my law now. And we've taken on 2 new partners in the last year as well.
And that's all part of your growth plan?
That's part of the growth plan, and it's enabling us to expand and have more capacity within the firm itself.
Now, what are you personally after the next 10 years of your career there at the firm? Are you going to exit out? Are you going to stay there? Are you going to keep expanding? You don't know?
Look, I'm 62 years old. Ultimately, I'll exit. I haven't got a defined date when I will. I enjoy coming in. I enjoy the challenges of dealing with people's problems. I enjoy the poker hand, as I talked about before. It's really satisfying. Is the right word that I'm looking for. It's really satisfying to start with a client in a very difficult position and see them, after they've been through a process with you, whatever that might happen to be, to walk away and they're happy with the result. And
in a lot of cases,
I get my jollies
saved
out of
them
that.
a ton of money as well.
Correct.
You've saved them a ton of headaches. So going in and solving a massive challenge would be a great, like for me, when our clients come to me and they said, you're the reason we've invested, you're the reason we bought property, that's what gets me out of bed.
Yep.
Knowing that a client said, that was so impactful to my life, my family, that's the reason why I still love doing what I do.
And that's a satisfaction.
Of course.
You get an immense satisfaction by seeing clients walk away and get on with their lives.
Because it's purposeful.
Yep,
It's
exactly.
impactful.
Yep. I had another case recently, or last year, where a client ran a company and he had a number of contractors, and those contractors fell away over COVID. And ultimately, he had one contractor, and that contractor
You fell away, they left?
They
stopped
left. They
working?
left because of COVID and everything like that. But he retained one contractor. That one contractor ultimately started taking my clients' clients, and we're involved in a
Litigation.
long fought out battle to recover the situation. As I said, you never know quite what's going to walk in the door, but it's always interesting.
Look, my experience with law, I've had quite a few disputes in past with partners, both business and professional. Always long, elongated, painful, expensive, and it's always good to get to a resolution. But sometimes it's not that easy.
Yep.
When there's emotion involved, when there's money involved, it always takes longer.
Oh, yeah.
What I remember once many years ago, we had a finance book and a finance arm, and what a lawyer told me was going to take months. I think I was just shy of 2 years going back and forth. What an exercise was 50, 60,000. We're over $500,000 in legal fees.
Wow. Yeah. It's not hard to see the costs run away. So you need to constantly keep the client informed. And as an example, a client walks into me and they've got a small amount of debt. I'll hop on the phone straight away to the other side and say, a good settlement's a quick settlement. How can we make this problem go away for the client? If we can't, we'll end up in court, and all of the benefit is all the clients that your client and my client are meant to get is going to go out the window in costs. So let's fix it. Let's fix it quickly.
Yeah, because I don't think everyone would share that sentiment. Because if they see a client, this can last a year or two. There's a lot of money in this client.
Correct.
But if you're going in there from the start to solve the issue for the client, you're definitely working within the best interest of that client.
Yeah.
And I can see why the clients keep coming back to you.
Thank you.
And I can see why you've been doing it for 30 years. Because as I said, I've been involved in court cases that have been lasting for a very long time. It's not because of lawyers. It's not because of people. It's because of both. It's because of emotions. It's very easy to get emotional. Or you're just not looking at all the facts. People don't look at things pragmatically when they can.
Yep.
And I think that always takes much longer.
And you've got to always remain objective.
Step away.
To look in, exactly. Take a global view of the whole of the issue and try to find the best way to maneuver the other side to come to a settlement. Even if they don't want to, even if they're being dogmatic, even if they're being difficult. You've got to create enough pressure points. Sometimes it takes money and other sides spending money so that they get fatigued, like when you're ready to go into a mediation. So, they're tired and of the process already. They just want to get it done. And that's the best time to actually hit if you can't settle it earlier.
Yeah, because look, my divorce has been going for like a couple of years and I feel we're at that point now. But when you look back at it objectively and think, wow, it didn't really have to get there. But if you look at, I think one common thing, you look at a mutual purpose, not just in my case, in any case, and you said that just in that one phone call. What's the mutual benefits? What's the purpose? Let's focus on that. Let's put all of our decisions, our energy and our time to one common factor.
Yep.
And I think that's probably, if I've learned one thing in the last few years, it's that. Being able to pull back. But it's easier said than done, isn't it?
It's easier said than done.
Because when you're involved in it,
you're emotional. But you have to go through the emotional. Sometimes you can go through the emotional journey fairly quickly. Sometimes people can step back and actually look at the practical, quick practical outcome and say, you can say, I can run this case for you, but you're not going to have a resolution. You can have sleepless nights for the next year and a half, or we can settle for this.
But it's like what you said, I think, Lindsay, and I echo that sentiment just through personal experience. Sometimes you need to go down that road to know that road's not for you.
Correct. Yep.
I could have told you a year ago and you go, no, I'm going to go. And you go, you know what, you're right. But you only know that that person's right because you traveled that experience. You went through that. You spent hundreds of thousands in litigation. You went to court. You went to mediation. And I look at it and I go to my friend who's a very good lawyer, who's a brilliant lawyer. And I go, well, how do you do this all day? You're dealing with challenges all day. Relentless. In court. I'm in mediation, but he has a very, very specific brain that he just sees things through solutions. Where's the problem? Here's the outcome. Which which is very fascinating.
And
Always
it's
like
engineering the way to get to that outcome. That's where the fun is. That's
the part I love. I actually can hear him thinking.
Yes.
When I ask him a question, his pause, I can actually see his mind turning. And I love the way he breaks it down. And when he comes up with something, I always go, how did you come up with that? Why?
Yeah.
Because I want to understand the process.
Yeah.
Now, Lindsay, I could talk about law all day with you because I love the topic when it comes to property and business, not family law.
That's all right. No, I get that.
As it's become a custom, are you ready for our quick fire questions?
Oh, okay. Hit me up with them.
Comedy or drama?
Comedy.
2. Camping or clamping?
Glamping, definitely.
Spicy food or mild food?
Medium.
Read a book or watch a movie?
I think read a book.
Coffee shop or home office?
Oh, good question. Coffee shop for a chat.
Skiing or surfing?
Oh, skiing, definitely.
Music festival or art gallery?
Music festival.
Chocolate or vanilla?
Oh, tough one. Vanilla. I do a really good affogato.
Morning workout or evening workout?
Morning, always.
Sneakers or sandals?
Sneakers.
What's your greatest achievement so far?
Oh, there's a few, but I'd have to say building P&B, building the practice.
Well, as I mentioned, 30 years is it's a big accomplishment. Well done.
Thank you.
If you could relive one day of your life, what would it be?
Oh, wow. I took the family to Ibiza this year, and we did we saw Calvin Harris and David Guetta, and that was just the most magical day that I think that I've ever had. Oh, 2 days, actually. We did 2 different concerts.
I love Calvin Harris.
They were fantastic. So
I saw him in Vegas. He was amazing.
Oh, brilliant.
How do you relax after a stressful day?
I think there's a lot of stressful days.
In law, although you practice, I'm sure.
I just sort of sit in front of the telly. That's all. Just chillax.
What's a value in your life that you live by?
Being humble. I do my best to be humble. I've been incredibly fortunate through my life. I don't take it for granted. I come from 8 generations of Aussie stock.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. I try to be humble, and I try to be able to relate to people at whatever level.
What's the legacy you want to leave behind?
Definitely a great legal practice for my partners now, who ultimately will take over from me, and a good name.
Well, hopefully you mentioned saying cure the road. Hopefully you're somewhere near me when you get your new office, and I'm sure you'll leave the good name. What's the first thing you think of when you wake up?
How grateful I am. And
last question, a tough one. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much have you enjoyed being on our podcast?
Actually, 9.5.
There you go. Thank you very much, Lindsay, for being on the podcast. I look forward to seeing you around the Cub next and chatting.
Thanks, Chris.